Hey, so inside of the if statements, I introduced you to a concept of true or false, and this is essentially Booleans. Now, Booleans are used very commonly inside of programming, and you could actually drop those values inside of a variable. And you can tell that it's different, one by the syntax coloring of Sublime that makes it purple, and also the fact that it's not inside of quotations, and it's not a number variable. This has already been defined. So I can actually go ahead inside of my console and say variable a equals to true. I can say variable b equals to false. Don't mind that a or b are returning undefined. These are actually the values inside of it. Now also, of course, there is undefined, and var c equals undefined. Essentially a number or essentially a value that has yet to be defined. Then in addition, there is null. So var c equals null, and null is the lack of a value. So I could actually do something like this. I could say a equals true, and I say if a. So if the value of a is equivalent to true, if this exists, then I can go ahead and say console log a is true, otherwise say a is false. And with this logic, you can see how programmers can tend to build complex scenarios. When you look at a huge application or video game like Photoshop or Marvel vs. Capcom, for example, there are a ridiculous number of these very small, minute calculations. If the life bar is equal to 0, then play the death animation. And this, unbelievably so, is the entirety of programming, just different malformations of this in itself. Now, there is another type of data that we haven't discussed yet, and this is arrays. And arrays are essentially a folder of information. So I have a variable cheese, and I define an array by having square brackets. And essentially, this is a list of information. Now I have cheese, and I have 23, 44, 88, cake, and 99. Now, if ever I wanted to see something inside of this array, so I have this array defined here. If I type cheese, it could show me. But if ever I wanted to see the first member of the array, I could attempt to do this. However, if I type cheese and then the square brackets, this is the index. This is where in the array I'm looking. So if I say cheese 1, it will bring me 44, which is actually the second member in the array. And all arrays in programming are zero index, meaning that the first thing starts with 0. So if I wanted to actually get this 22, I would have to type cheese 0. I'm sorry, 23. I would have to type cheese 0. That's because programming languages work on computers, and computers are binary. Now, with an array comes a number of methods or things we can ask the array to do. So one, I could say, okay, does cheese include the secret of life? It does not include the secret of life, but it does include cake. And you can see how this returns a false or true, and how I could actually say if cheese dot includes cake, yay. Otherwise, and you could slowly start to see how this logic would be built up over time. Now, there are another number of things we could do. So, for example, cheeses like this, I can call reverse on cheese to reverse the order. I could also do sort and push. Sort puts the numbers in numerical order and also puts the strings in alphabetical order. Then there's also push, which allows me to push something at the end. And this was returning to me the number inside of the array that it got pushed to. This is the sixth thing in the array. So there are a number of methods that are available or things you can do on the array. And if ever you wanted to see them, you could actually head over to MDN, Mozilla Developer Network, go to Array, and just browse around and see what you can learn.